Hello and welcome to the 25th official episode of At Fred Asquith on Film. Fred on Film, FOF, right? And this is an exciting day. So not only is this the 25th episode, and I've been doing these weekly, sometimes more than weekly, but this is actually a year since... I'm Fred Asquith, by the way. Woohoo! This is actually a year since I've started releasing podcast episodes in general. So... keen-eyed listeners would have scrolled back on this same podcast feed and seen that it's actually had two previous iterations that I think both of them didn't get beyond like 10 or 12 episodes. So don't worry, FOF is sticking around. I'm so happy that I started FOF. I know this is where this was always supposed to end up. I was trying different things. The first iteration was called Fredflix, which is why I've got this neon sign behind me that is now fucking defunct. And that was me more interviewing people about their like cinema preferences. Turns out, don't really give a shit about other people, right? That was the first lesson. Secondly, then I started to try and write a screenplay like on film with my mate Ian, and it was called Let's Write a Screenplay. Turns out Ian didn't really want to be filmed doing that. However, we are still doing that. We've like won a couple of competitions with our short film that came from it, and we are writing a feature-length version. We've actually just finished the first draft of that, but he didn't want to be filmed on that process. So I was like, right, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? Because I couldn't get... it was difficult getting guests for Fredflix. It was difficult getting Ian on fucking camera for Let's Write a Screenplay. So I was like, right, I'll just do some on my own then. Turns out I'm way more interested in myself than anyone else, and turns out I'm way more interested in talking about other films than my own. So that birthed At Fred Asquith on Film, and we're 25 episodes since that, right? But in total, there's been 47 episodes on this feed, give or take a few weeks, so that's one exact year since the feed began. Because I missed like Christmas and all that shit, you know what I mean? However, now FOF has begun. I probably won't miss Christmas this year. I've literally just before this recording started, planned every single episode from now until the 13th of February 2026, okay? I planned out every movie that's getting released, all the things I could talk about around those movies. Like, this podcast is not going anywhere. You know when someone starts a poddy and you're like, oh, we'll see how that goes. You're on, and this is going to be a ride, and we're going on a ride together. And we're going from strength to strength. Even my mum, my own mother, said to me the other day, she said, oh, I realised that you're at Fred Asquith on Film. Reels are getting a lot more views recently. Yeah, fucking too right, mum. Too right they are. Thanks for noticing. I'll tell my audience that as well, because if they're not following me on there, what the fuck are they doing? The audio listeners are going up. The reel viewers are going up. Everything is happening, and you are my nascent, what do you call it? Like seedlings. Like you were here at the start. If you're listening right now, you get to call yourself like an original FOFer. Or whatever the fuck we want to call ourselves. That's not a very catchy name. Let's think of a better one. So this is like, imagine being back at the start when Joe Rogan started his podcast. God, imagine if in 15 years I was as much of a twat as Joe Rogan. I can't believe I used him as a reference. Oh my God, hate him. Anyway, a few things I want to go through today. I want to go through Emmys, Mitchell Webb, Charlie Sheen documentary. Going to review Spinal Tap II, The Long Walk, A Big Bold Beautiful Journey, and talk about what's coming in the next week, which is super, super exciting. So, Emmys, just want to say well done to Owen Cooper, the 15-year-old who won Best Actor for his lead role in Adolescence, which was the Stephen Graham Netflix four-parter, which was all done in one shot. Great performance by Owen Cooper. Didn't really like Adolescence. Was part of the minority. Still feel like I'm not part of a very gigantic club of loving Adolescence. And the less said about that, the better. Next up, Mitchell and Webb have a new sketch show out. So Mitchell and Webb, David Mitchell, Robert Webb. Is it Robert Webb? I got mixed up then because there's a James Webb Space Telescope. It is Robert Webb, isn't it? Yeah. And you know when your brain just kind of like, your brain has information in it in like files, and I've obviously got like Webb, and then within you click on Webb, imagine in your brain, and then it opens up and it's like Robert Webb, James Webb, and I've said Robert Webb, and my brain's gone, oh, but is it though? And I've gone, well, is it? you tell me. And my brain's gone, well, let me just give me a second. So I've got Robert Webb in here, and I've also got James Webb. But when you say James Webb, it reminds you of the Space Telescope. So that must be unrelated. And I've gone, okay, cool. Well, I could have had that information up front, please. Because now I look like a twat. Now I look, do you know what I'm saying? So Mitchell and Webb Are Not Helping is the new sketch show from David Mitchell and Robert Webb. And they're known for Peep Show. They're known for that Mitchell and Webb look in the noughties. And I just wanted to mention it because it's quite unusual for like quite a big name sketch show. It's actually really unusual for a sketch show to be commissioned at all nowadays because all sketches are on TikTok and maybe Netflix with like Tim Robinson's I Think You Should Leave. And I can speak to that. I mean, I technically make sketches on TikTok and Instagram as well. So, however, I'm not David Mitchell and Robert Webb, granted. But it's really unusual that it's like starting now. And I watched a couple of episodes. I think it's pretty funny. I wasn't like rolling on the floor laughing. But what I did think about that was, am I like just not used to this format anymore? Like, because I remember watching that Mitchell and Webb look when I was 13, 14. And I loved it, and I think it was kind of at the tail end of a really exciting time in British comedy culture. You know, The Office and Peep Show and Partridge and all that. And that Mitchell and Webb look was at the back end of that. You know, when we used to have UK British Comedy Awards, do we still do that? And it was like hosted by Jonathan Ross, and everyone was pissed, and you had Johnny Vegas coming on stage going, I don't know if they're it monkey, like, and everyone was like, oh fucking hell, aren't we crazy? We're in Britain and we're the funniest people in the world. It was a weird old time. It was like Amy Winehouse era, Libertines era, back end of Oasis. It was like fucking cool Britannia, right? And I kind of associate that comedy era with that entire era. So I was watching Mitchell and Webb Are Not Helping, and I was like, yeah, it's fine this. But is this where culture is at right now? Do I want culture commented on in this format? You know what I mean? I feel like I'm almost too used to a short form format to do comedy sketches. Then on the other hand, the very nature of a comedy sketch show is very short form. It's just like 2 minute sketch, 2 minute sketch, 2 minute sketch. So the format, like, it should, in theory, it should work for a modern audience, but just like linear TV audiences are low, and I just don't see many people tuning into Channel 40D to flick on Mitchell and Webb Are Not Helping, because they're quite like, you know, they're in their 50s now. They're not like fresh names anymore. It's just a difficult environment. I'm getting a fucking phone call from my darling wife. Should we ever listen to this? Hiya, darling. You're on Fred Asquith on Film.
I'm sorry, I'll leave you.
Is it urgent?
No.
Because all this is very urgent.
I know, I'm sorry. I just want to say I love you.
Was it just a chit chat?
Yeah.
Right, have a great fight. Love you.
Love you, bye.
Fucking hell. Fucking hell. Oh, God, darling. Darling, why are you calling me in the middle of my fucking podcast? Can you be any more of a stereotype? Darling, I'm recording a podcast. Well, how dare you? And so that's Mitchell and Webb Not Helping. Thought it was okay. I also this weekend watched the Charlie Sheen documentary. I've forgotten the full title for it, but the Charlie Sheen documentary does what it says on the tin. It's a documentary on Netflix about the life and career of Charlie Sheen, who is like infamously had a rocky life, let's say. And I binged it. And if you want to know more about Charlie Sheen, obviously go watch it or go read the synopsis to this fucking documentary. But just to say, he took a lot of substances and he did a lot of things in and around having a average to good career, right? He was in Platoon, which won Best Picture. He had a cameo in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which he was, you know, he's decent in that. He had a long career in the TV comedy sitcom 2.5 Men, which was widely celebrated and won Emmys and whatnot. Personally, I'm just like, you know, he had a decent career, and yet this program is talking about how he had so much kind of power and influence amongst kind of the party celebrities and the party lifestyle in the Hollywood culture at the time, to the extent where, and this is in the first clip from the first episode, to the extent where a commercial jet pilot allowed him to briefly fly the commercial jet that he was drunk on without autopilot on. And the point of that story was supposed to be, oh my God, Charlie Sheen had so much power in the 80s, they even let me do that just because I was Charlie Sheen. That, to me, doesn't speak to, like, just... First of all, it's a horrific story. Like, it's said in quite a light-hearted way, like, oh my God, he put me behind the controls and turned off autopilot. That's fucking terrifying, and, like, that pilot should be disbarred, for sure, right? But secondly, that doesn't speak to Charlie Sheen's power. I mean, obviously, he did have influence at the time. That, to me, speaks more to an inflated view of Hollywood stars' power in that era. I don't think Charlie Sheen had a career good enough to have that much influence. I think Hollywood was too big for its boots, basically, and everyone had way too much influence from someone who was in like a few decent films and a fucking sitcom. Like, anyway, it is kind of fascinating. It's mainly like a story of partying and debauchery, and it includes other celebrities known for partying and debauchery, so Nick Cage and Sean Penn and whatnot. And that is fascinating to hear about, in the sense that it's like a snapshot in time. But it's not fascinating in the sense that, like, just because you're a celebrity doesn't mean I have to find this impressive. Like, I don't necessarily love listening to people essentially glorify substance taking. Look, I know he's talking about bad times with these substances, and the documentary does lean into that. But ultimately, the documentary is sort of glorifying the lifestyle, especially of the 80s Hollywood. And my conclusion was, just because you're a celebrity doesn't mean any of this is cool. I think that's what the documentary is trying to tell us a lot of the time. Oh, wow, look what he got up to. It's not cool. Just because you're a celebrity. Take the celebrity out of it, it's still not that cool. I'm not saying it's not something I empathize with. He has a lot of issues, and I really empathize with that. But I'm just saying I'm not going to laugh and clap about it. Do you know what I mean? So, anyway, watch the whole fucking thing. So, sip of my tea. We're back on the tea now, because we're quite autumnal. We've got lemon, ginger, apple cider vinegar, and a little bit of sweetener in there as well. So, 3 reviews coming up. Spinal Tap II, Long Walk, and A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey. And I'm going to tell you up top that I've ordered these deliberately so that they are in an order of declining quality, in my view, right? So starting with the best and ending with the worst. So that's just a little sneak peek into where this episode is headed, okay? And also, I've ordered this in, just coincidentally, that means I've been able to order them in order of release. So Spinal Tap 2 and Long Walk were both out last weekend. That's Friday the 12th of September. And A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey is out this Friday the 19th of September. So I'll start off with Spinal Tap 2. This is obviously the follow-up to... So it's called Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. And this is a follow-up to Spinal Tap... which is directed by Rob Reiner, and it came out in, 1984 or something like that. And it's the story of it's a mockumentary about a fake British band called Spinal Tap, starring Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, Harry Shearer of Simpsons fame. And the original is a classic, really. It's a classic with mockumentary. You can't imagine that you would have The Office without This Is Spinal Tap. And it really paved the way for a kind of style of dry, awkward comedy. And when you go back and watch it, it's actually still really, really effective. Spinal Tap 2 is largely bullshit, okay? I think that I did go back and watch Spinal Tap 1 immediately upon leaving the cinema of Spinal Tap 2, just to remind myself, like, what are we comparing ourselves to here? And Spinal Tap 1, fucking hell, it still feels like it really caught the zeitgeist of the time, and you can absolutely see why, because it's so incredibly effective at towing the line between reality and farce. And apparently some people did believe it was real when it came out. Well, no one will believe that Spinal Tap 2 is real. And the dry comedy in Spinal Tap 1, it's so astutely poised, balanced. It's perfect. And the observations are perfect of kind of the culture of rock bands of that time. And the accents are great as well, because all these 3 lead actors who play in the band are all American actors, and they're all doing like cod British accents, and they're all great. But it's a little bit... Spinal Tap 2 is a little bit of Happy Gilmore 2 syndrome, where they have flashbacks to the first film, and every time they do, you're kind of like, oh God, I'd love to be watching that. Like that looks really good. There's something in the celluloid of that first one that just feels way more enticing than the second one. It doesn't feel as candid as the original. It doesn't feel as real as the original. And it also doesn't feel as cutting as the original, because the culture that the original was commenting on, that kind of like rock and roll stardom, PR execs, managers, and all that furore, has died now. Like that just doesn't really exist in music anymore. So they have like cameo performances from Paul McCartney and Elton John, and it's all a bit kind of forced, and you're trying to recapture the sparkle and the magic around these characters, and you're just not doing it. It's a bit too polished. There's something about the aesthetic of a mockumentary back in the day that has, you can see the grain of the celluloid, and it does feel cinema verite. Is that the word? It's like, not cinema verite, like guerrilla filmmaking, where they're just like a fly on the wall. There's something about the polished quality of the visuals of movies now, where it doesn't feel as fly on the wall. It just feels like staged and forced and plastic. The core 3, though, that I mentioned, who play the band, are still kind of on form. Like any scene where they're just jibber jabbering is funny. Like it's not like ha 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 ha, but it is a bit like like it's a bit like and you're in good company. And Christopher Guest is a legend of comedy and mockumentary comedy. He's done Best in Show and A Mighty Wind, and For Your Consideration. This is like a style that he's used to. He's in a comfortable place performing this character in this type of movie. And so there are scenes with those characters that are funny, and but they still hark back to just how funny that first one was. And it feels a bit cobbled together as well, and not in like a way that complements the mockumentary style. In a way that just feels like, oh yeah, let's do a second movie, and it's quite cheap. The first one, you never worried about it feeling cheap, because that just felt like part of the nature and the aesthetic of the mockumentary itself. And the first one was 1 hour 22 minutes, and it felt like quite rich still, and quite a lot in there, quite dense. This feels like 1 hour 22 minutes, and it still feels stretched across that runtime, like you're stretching some dough and it's like stringing in the middle. Like there's just not enough to go around. But I didn't want to tear my eyes out. I absolutely didn't want to tear my eyes out. It wasn't Happy Gilmore 2 syndrome, where it was like fucking diabolical. It felt true to the characters. That was one of my problems with Happy Gilmore 2. I'm just referring to that because it's a legacy sequel. It's recent. Blah blah blah. One of my problems with that movie was that it didn't even feel true to the character of Happy Gilmore, but this did. They know how to perform these characters, and they're performing them. They're staying true to them. And at its core, those characters are still humorous. But, these movies are always going to feel referential. It's always referring back to good moments from the first movie, songs from the first movie, jokes from the first movie. And it's not breaking much new ground. There's nothing really I'd quote from this movie at all. I can't remember any jokes or lines. It basically works for what it is, but it's not the original. That's the conclusion. It is 1 hour 22 minutes with credits, and there's some bloopers over the credits. But fucking hell, it does feel short, like I say, and probably in a negative sense, which is unusual for me to say because I love getting in, getting out. So I would give this a 2.5 out of 5. And I think if you like the original movie, it is worth seeing. It's not an absolute travesty that's going to taint your opinion of that first movie. If you haven't seen the first movie, give it a watch, and if you do like it, go see this second one. We've now got a review of The Long Walk, which, like I say, came out on Friday, the 12th of September. The Long Walk I'm just going to read the synopsis for you here. Is a 2025 American dystopian survival thriller directed by Francis Lawrence, based on the 1979 novel of the same name by Stephen King. It is the plot is teens are participating in a grueling high-stakes contest where they must continuously walk (brackets over a certain pace) or be shot by a member of their military escort. So this is set in a dystopian future where America is under totalitarian regime, seemingly led by Mark Hamill, who's like the commanding officer. Anyway, so this is starring Cooper Hoffman, who you might have seen in the recent PTA movie Licorice Pizza. It's also starring David Johnson, who I think won the EE BAFTA Rising Star Award. If not, he should have done. Oh, he did, yes, in 2025. And he really deserved that for his performances in Rye Lane, which is a really cute British rom-com set in Brixton. And Alien Romulus, he was the robot in that. I think he was called David, actually, in that. And he was brilliant in that too. So I really like David Johnson. So that's the setup. I just want to say that my attempts to see this movie were completely cursed. So first of all, I didn't want to see the movie because I didn't like the trailer and I thought it looked pretty trash. But then I heard from friend of the show, good friend Benedict Townsend, who you may know from Talk of the Townsends, who I see at various premieres and we meet up otherwise, trying to prove that I'm friends with him. We meet up otherwise and we go for coffees and we talk about things, we talk about life. He said, I think he gave it a 5-star review on Letterboxd, and I was like, fucking hell, I kind of respect his opinion, kind of. So I'll go see it. So I booked big tickets on the Friday, the 12th. Turns out then my mum and dad decided to come down, and they were arriving at that time, and they wanted to stay at my place. So I was like, right, I can't go see it on the Friday. So then I asked my dad, do you want to come see it with me on the Saturday? And he said, yeah. So I booked tickets on the Saturday, and we went to Westfield Stratford, which is where the movie was being played. And lo and behold, we turn up, and 5 minutes before we arrived, a fire had just started in the Westfield Stratford car park. If you saw this on the news, I was there. A fire, I assume an electric car battery set on fire, but I actually don't know that for sure. But a car was on fire in the Westfield Stratford car park and set alight 12 other cars. So there was a lot of smoke coming from right next to where the View Cinema is. But still, I was like, looks like it's dying down. Should we give it a go? Or so then we were like, oh, we'll hang around for 10 minutes. We looked in Timberland, came back, and we were like, yeah, it does seem like a lot of smoke. It would be quite silly to go watch a film directly next to a fire, to an active flame. So we actually left, and then just as we were leaving, they actually called the evacuation. So couldn't use those tickets. So by this point, I bought three, including my dad, because it was his birthday. So I bought him one as well. And then on the Sunday, I'm like, okay, fine, I'll try this again. So I'm driving back from another engagement outside of London, and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll just drive straight to Westfield. So I drive to Westfield, and the rule is basically never, ever, 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 ever try to drive into a popular shopping centre on a Sunday, the day after one of the car parks was on fire. Full stop, underline, bold. Put it in bold, okay? Because it's bad enough trying to drive to Westfield on a Sunday. I've never done it, but I assume it is. My friend says, oh, you never have a problem parking at Westfield normally. And I'm like, I don't fucking believe that, because it's a fucking nightmare, right? But it's bad enough doing that. Never mind when the fucking car park was on fire yesterday. So I was in a queue for 50 minutes to park in this fucking car park. And this is my fault, by the way. Like, I'm not angry. I know I sound angry because I fucking am. I'm not angry at anyone. I'm angry at myself. Why the fuck would I think that driving to Westfield was a good idea? Park at home and fucking get on your bike or get an Uber or walk. Even if I walked, I would have got there sooner than 50 minutes. I was in a fucking queue. You know when you go in a car park and you're like driving around and you're in a queue in the car park and each side are cars parked. So you literally can't go anywhere. It's one of the worst forms of traffic you could possibly have because you're like, well, I am the traffic and I will be the traffic until the traffic moves. It's not like you move a little bit and there's like a left turn. You know, if you're on traffic on a motorway, you can like take a slip road and try something else. Like, no. This is just, there's one way in, there's one way out. Like, I'm in the traffic. I've just got to go around. So there's one point where I was like, I'm going to be maybe 5 minutes late to this movie, and I fuck it off. I'm not going to go to my 4th ticket for this film. But then I was like, well, where am I going to go? I can't just decide to leave. Like, I'm still in the traffic. So I was like, right, well, if I drive round and a space comes open, then I'll stop and I'll go see the film. And if it doesn't, then I'm just going to the fucking exit because it's going to take forever. Anyway, a space actually came open right as I drive past it. I couldn't believe it. So I just slipped in there in my little banger smart car, which is literally falling apart. Probably set on fire while I was watching the film. And I was 7 minutes late to the long walk. I was so angry at myself because, I've ranted recently on this podcast about how I hate people being late to films. You're disturbing the movie for everyone else and blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, I said on this podcast, if I'm ever late, I always sort everything out outside, like get my drink out, put my phone away, blah, 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 before I go in. And I did do that. I was a man of my word, right? I'm not going to be a hypocrite and be like, I bundled in late with my coat and blah, blah. No, I sorted everything out outside. I didn't buy any snacks or try and make myself any later. I had a big bottle of water in my bag that I'd pre-packed, and I put my phone in my bag. I took my bottle of water outside the door, and then I walked in, and I didn't go to my booked seat, which was all the way at the back in the middle, which would have meant for me to go in front of the screen, all the way up the side, and then squeeze in front of people, and probably in front of the projector, because I'm a right fucking beanpole. I just walked in, and directly in front of me was 3 empty seats on the front row because the rest of the cinema was full, completely full. And I didn't look up, felt really embarrassed. They'd all looked at me, obviously. 3 empty seats on the front row, and I sat down and I was like, right, I'm just going to stay here. And my neck was craning like this, but I thought, I've made my own bed. I'm going to have to lie in it. I'm not going to disturb anyone else anymore. So I just sat there for the whole film. And I missed the first 5 minutes, but I've recently checked in with Benedict, and he said not much happens in the first 5 minutes. Blah, blah, blah. I will spoil this movie when I'm reviewing it, by the way. Anyway, it was a cursed movie for me to even try and see. So I've told you the premise. They're going on a long walk, and if they don't go fast enough, then they get shot. To me, that is a tacky premise. I don't know what the right phrase is. It might be Chekhov's gun, or it might not be. There's a phrase in like playwriting where it's like, if you... The whole idea of Chekhov's gun is like, if you show that there's a gun in a bag, then a very kind of boring dialogue scene can be interesting because everyone knows there's a gun in the bag, right? It's like you show the audience something that is going to change the whole scene, and the audience knows it's there, and they know it's going to come back at some point in the rest of the scene. I see this movie as like a giant version of that. It's like you start a movie with 50 contestants doing this long walk, and you know that only one can win, which means that 49 contestants are going to get shot in the head, right? And so you know as an audience member, I'm going to see 49 people get shot. So fundamentally, as like a teenager, and this movie was full of a lot of teenagers in the audience, fundamentally as a teenager wanting to see something a bit gruesome and fucked up, that's a good promise for you, isn't it? You're like, oh, I'm going to see a lot of fucked up bullshit in this film. At least 49 moments of it, right? That to me is tacky. However, it is based on a 1979 novel by Stephen King. So I'm not saying that was Stephen King's intention. I do think that was the filmmaker's intention, to be like, oh, we can get all the teens in just to watch some fucked up bullshit. And that to me feels tacky and easy. I think I'm in the minority with this movie. I think that people seem to be really enjoying it. So these are quite like bargain basement points of reference, but like it's got 3.7 out of 5 on Letterboxd, which is a decent score. It got 5 stars from Benedict Townsend. You know what I mean? Like when I was walking out of the movie, people were saying, "Oh, I feel really like affected by that and all this." But I didn't enjoy it. Here's why. Nothing takes me out of a movie more than a bad accent. David Johnson, who, like I say, is played. He was in Rye Lane, Alien Romulus. He won the BAFTA Rising Star Award. I love David Johnson. I genuinely love David Johnson, and I can't wait to see him more as he grows up, because I think he's still pretty young. He looks like 25 or something, maybe. That's definitely the age of the character he's playing in this movie, or maybe even younger than that. However, I want the future movies that he's in for him to be playing British characters, because his American accent is just not up to snuff. It's not. Nothing takes me out of a movie more than a bad accent. Fucking Russell Crowe in Robin Hood, right? Or you know what I mean? I can't get on with it. And I don't know. It's genuinely difficult for me to put myself in the brain of someone else who isn't bothered about that. Do you know what I mean? Do you have those things as well? Like sometimes you'll have your thing that gives you the ick or like annoys you, and other people aren't annoyed by this. And so like my darling wife said at one point that she doesn't really hear like crinkling in the cinema when people are crinkling crisps and stuff. And I was honestly stopped in my tracks with that. I was like, how? I couldn't comprehend not being able to hear that. And similarly, I can't comprehend someone watching this and not getting annoyed by this bad American accent. That to me is like fundamentally like page 1, chapter 1 of like, how can I get invested in a character? I believe fundamentally that they, in the world of the film, are real. Now, that's not to say that I don't know that it's David Johnson, but you put your like, what's the word? There's a word, isn't there, for being like I put the kind of like my knowledge aside, and I allow myself to be taken by the fiction of the movie. And sort of like, I can't do that if I know that someone's doing an accent in every single word that they say. So I'm immediately out of it. It was cliche characters with cliche dialogue. I felt like the setup, like I say, was pretty tacky and easy, and the exploration of that setup was also pretty tacky and easy. All the characters are all so basic, one note. You've got kind of the villainy kid, you've got kind of the hero-ish kid played by Cooper Hoffman, you've got the nerdy one, you've got the quiet one, you've got all this, and it's just kind of like paint by numbers. I know that's my favourite phrase, but it really just feels like it. It feels like something I wrote in year 9, and it also feels like something a load of school kids are performing in a drama school play. And I found it pretty laughable, to be honest. It was pretty predictable. Like, spoilers, like I've said, but Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson become best friends on this walk, and obviously those are the two that get it to the end. And like that in itself is just like, it's a 1 hour 40 movie, and you're watching it just being like, I know exactly where this is going. The walk isn't even interrupted. Like they literally do the walk, and then there literally is a winner, and there is no diversion from what you know is going to happen from 10 minutes in. Isn't that amazing? Like that's just, and I'm supposed to just fucking watch that. And, you know, it's maybe, you might be like, oh, well, you might argue like, oh, it's that kind of genre. It's like thriller, borderline on horror genre. You know, a lot of horror is predictable. I disagree. I think that things, even if you know the general trajectory of something, because you know in horrors there are tropes and stuff like that, things can still have elements that surprise you, and this had no elements that surprised me. There was just a lot of people getting shot, to be honest. Like it was just like every single death was supposed to be like shocking or like a sad moment or an emotional beat, and I'm like, but you know what this. I was thinking the characters, you know what this is, and you've seen 30 of them by this point. So like, why is this still shocking to you? Like, or why should we still be shocked as audience members? I got really just desensitized to like, oh, and now they're building up to another character getting sacked off, and oh, okay, so now they're building up to, and it really becomes repetitive. Like there's only so many ways you can like plant a seed that a character might be like losing energy or losing hope or whatever, and then that comes to a head, and then boom, they get shot, and then that happens again. So that happens, you know, obviously all the other 49 get popped off in some way, but there are like, let's say 10 to 12 core characters where you see their death in a lot of detail, from like the moment you start to suspect it might happen to the moment it happens. And that's basically the whole film. They're literally just walking. I mean, I know that's what the film is. I'm not saying that's a criticism. I'm saying there's no diversion from that rhythm. It's just like the narrative rhythm is so repetitive, and that's not deliberate in keeping with the setup of the movie. The fact that it's a monotonous walk, that's just bad writing. And there was no visual flair. So like they're walking, and I respect the fact that the movie like allows itself to. It's patient. It's patient with the conversations. It's patient with what's happening, and it's obviously a low budget movie because how much budget do you need for just 50 kids walking on a street? But the production value was extremely low. Like I didn't feel like there was any world outside of this group. Like sometimes they'll go through towns and you'll have like cutaway shots to like people watching them or whatever. But like I know those cutaway shots were filmed on separate days. Like that you can just tell. It's like a whole different style, and it was really jarring to me. And then also there's this kind of like reverse tracking shot that they use a lot of the time. So they'll just do shot, reverse shot, and it'll just be tracking back, maybe slightly handheld or often on a dolly, just like a 3-shot of like reverse tracking and 3 or 4 characters in shot, and it might just be panning between them. And I'm like, it's that for the whole film. So there's no... You'd think in a film with such a repetitive setup, you'd think they would find ways to inject visual... like a unique visual style into each individual sequence. So you're like, okay, this is what we want to say about this character, or this is what we want to say about this sequence, and so therefore this is how we're going to shoot it as a result. I didn't see any of that. I just felt like it was just a static, standard kind of style all the way through, and so it was telling me nothing. Even like lighting wise, like just visually, stylistically, it was so bland. And yeah. So, however, it did seem to work for the audience that I was in with. They were all kind of gasping at the right points, and it was quite a well-behaved audience considering it was Westfield Stratford, which is normally a fucking travesty. And Francis Lawrence, the director, he directed I Am Legend and Constantine, which are 2 movies that I loved when I was 14. I love, especially I Am Legend. I really loved it. And going back and watching it now, it's not great. It's really not great. And so I accept that like this movie didn't work for me, but is gonna work for me when I was 14. You know what I mean? Because there was a lot of people in there when they were coming out, and I was like, oh, they've really enjoyed themselves, and like, maybe this director is good for that age group and good for that level of quality, and fine, fair enough. I'm glad you're enjoying it. That's the motto of this podcast. If you're enjoying it, congratulations. But I didn't. So this is Spinal Tap. I gave 2.5 out of 5. The Long Walk I give 2 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Go see my full review on there. Or I should say this was my full review, and go see my pithy review. I hate reviews on Letterboxd, by the way, just a side note, that actually don't review the film. They'll just say something pithy and like quirky about the film and then give a star rating aside from that. So the star rating is absolutely not related to whatever they're saying whatsoever. Has anyone noticed this? It's really annoying. So for The Long Walk, someone might review it being like, God, I really liked his walking shoes must have been fucking good. Or that's the worst. It's the worst example. Well, you know what I mean? Just like something bullshit. Just like I just wanted to. I don't fucking know. I can't think of an example. Basically, people aren't reviewing films on Letterboxd. They're just trying to be funny because you get thousands of fucking likes. It's like, well, what is this fucking place for? I thought it was fucking cinephiles. Right, finally, A Big Bold Beautiful Journey, which is out this Friday, September 19th. As you know, as I told you at the start of this episode, these films are, in my opinion, of declining quality. So this is Spinal Tap at 2.5 out of 5, The Long Walk at 2 out of 5, and now this is going to be less than that. So straight off the bat, I would like to rename this film A Big Ball of Boiling Jizz, or A Big Bold Bowl of Fucking Bullshit, or A Big Bright Beautiful Fart. It's a shit title, A Big Bold Beautiful Journey, and even just typing the title annoys me. That's what I put in my notes. This might actually be the most depressing movie I've ever seen. Oh, fuck. Oh, my God. So, like, the trailer for this film was super uplifting. It was sort of Life of Chuck syndrome, where, like, I and everyone else on the internet seemed to watch it and be like, oh, my God, I really love a tearjerker. I really love something uplifting. I can't wait for this. This actually might be the most depressing movie I've ever seen. Someone told me it was 2 hours 20 before we started. It ended up being 1 hour 40, and I couldn't have been fucking happier. This is Margot Robbie and Colin Farrell talking about how fucked up they are for 1 hour 40. It still says it's 2 hour 20 on Google. It's not. Why is it saying that? So here's a synopsis. Through a surprising twist of fate, single strangers, Sarah, Margot Robbie, and David, Colin Farrell, get to relive important moments from their respective pasts, illuminating how they got to where they are in the present. It sounds wishy-washy because it is. So there's like doors stood in the middle of nowhere, and they walk through and they go to childhood memories and shit like that. Talk about an easy fucking route to be a tearjerker. I know how we can get the audience to fucking cry. Let's go get them to walk into childhood memories. Dead as fucking dicks, mate. Also, Paul Giamatti did it in the recent Black Mirror. Dead as fucking dicks. Don't have me walk it. Dead as fucking dicks. Anyway, Margot Robbie and Colin Farrell meet at a wedding beforehand, and then they go on this big, bold, beautiful journey, and they talk about how fucked up they are. You're not fucked up. You're actually not fucked up. You're actually not fucked up. You're actually very, very well put together. I'm not saying attractive people can't have issues. Of course they can. But these two didn't have fucking issues. All they did was eat fucking burgers and talk about how Colin Farrell told someone he loved her when he was younger, and she said no. So fucking what? So fucking what? They had some issues with your parents. Yeah, we all fucking do. We all do. And they're acting as if they're not finding each other attractive, and they only kiss about 50 minutes into the film. Bro, Colin Farrell and Margot Robbie going on a big, bold, beautiful journey. They're shagging the first night, right? Why not? They're single. They're single. They're two of the most attractive people to have ever lived. And you're telling me they only kissed 50 minutes into the film? Fuck off. They're shagging first night. She's seeing his big, bold, beautiful cock. Right? I'm not saying attractive people can't be sad, but I am saying that when sad people in movies are also attractive, I don't give a fuck. Oh, God, I love it. They obviously, like, fucking spoilers. They obviously get together in the movie. Fucking, I wanted to walk. They're just talking about how fucking sad they are, and just shut up. I wanted to walk through a door into the movie, grab them both by the ears, and go, "What are you talking about? What are you actually talking about?" There's like expressionist bits where it's so annoying. I hate films that think they're so fucking pretty and beautiful. Like the way it's filmed, there's like umbrellas and rain and dark and and fucking and like and it thinks it's so visually stylish. It thinks Wes Anderson's had a fucking child with like, I don't know, Bong Joon-ho or something. Like it's fucking so boring. Like going back to The Long Walk and how I found that visually boring because it did nothing. This tries to do everything and it's equally boring. You're trying so fucking hard. Colin Farrell is decent. He's all right. He's charming. Margot Robbie is also very charming. But the problem is that Colin Farrell can't play normal, really, because he is quite a kind of... He's a strange guy. And Margot Robbie can't play not normal because she is quite like a very, very down-to-earth woman. So Margot Robbie's playing this like zany character, and she's just not zany. It's the sort of character that Zooey Deschanel would have played in 2009. And I love Zooey Deschanel, and I love the films that she was in 2009. I love New Girl, and is it called New Girl? And 500 Days of Summer and whatnot. But that was an era. That was an era of the cool girl, right? Male writers writing like fetishized, fantasized, like this is the like cool girls, right? That don't actually exist in real life, who are just completely two-dimensional. That was an era of the past, and Margot Robbie is playing a character of that ilk, and it's just so fucking annoying. And even if that character was valid, she can't play that type of character. That would be a Zooey Deschanel character, and I mean that in a bad way, okay? Equally, Colin Farrell is playing like quite a reserved, normal guy. You're just not, bro. You're just not. Fun fact, it was... Oh, frog in my throat. Fun fact, it was written by me in year 9. So... the fucking movie starts with the fucking sat nav in the car going, so do you want to go on a big, bold, beautiful journey? And he goes, yeah. And it goes, say that again. You want to go on a big, bold, beautiful journey? And he goes, yeah, I want to go. And he goes, say it. And he goes, what? I want to go on a big, bold, beautiful journey. I want to go on a big, bold, beautiful journey. Do you want to go on a big, bold, beautiful journey? This fucking scene lasts 2 minutes! Shut the fuck up! You think you're making something iconic, the way you're shooting it, the way you're writing it, and you're fucking not. You're actually boring me to tears. I was trying to work out if there was any fucking way I could get comfortable enough on this fucking Odeon chair that was wank next to George from Pulp Kitchen and Zohair, the best editor in the world, so that I could fucking fall asleep and not go on a big, bold, beautiful journey. I wanted to go have a big, bold, beautiful fucking nap. Here's another quote from the film. The most beautiful places make you feel the most alone, you know? The most basic notes of meaning and emotion are in this film. There's Damien Rice songs. There's fucking... is that alright? Yeah. Give my gun away when it's... That I liked that song when I was 12! The Maccabees songs. This is the first day of my life. I swear I was born right in the doorway. I liked that song when I was 12! I listened to it in my grand's garden, and I was like, I'm so meaningful, and I'm so thoughtful, and that. You're adults! You're adults! Kogonada, the director, you're an adult. Do better than this. The Maccabees? Oh, that's Bright Eyes. That's even worse. The songs from Maccabees and Bright Eyes. Sorry. There's a fucking point, I swear to fucking God, there's a point where Margot Robbie puts her hand outside a car window and floats it in the wind. Okay, because I guess that's something that we still do in movies. Fuck! However this plays out, it ends in me hurting you. That's what Colin Farrell says. That's what Margot Robbie says. And Colin Farrell responds, and what if I hurt you? Oh, fuck off! I don't care! Just fuck! What is this relationship? They don't talk about anything during the film. They talk about burgers, they talk about hurting each other, and they talk about childhood memories because they have to, because they're fucking there. Not one point. Isn't this amazing? Listen to this. Isn't this amazing? At not one point do I believe that Margot Robbie and Colin Farrell would actually make a good couple. How fucked is that? Two of the most attractive people to live on this actual earth, and they're in the same scene, and I see zero chemistry or spark. I'm just like, nah, probably it's not going to work. And even the film is trying so fucking painfully hard to tell me that they're the best couple in the world, and I'm looking at them, and they're so beautiful, and the movie's so beautiful, and the words are supposed to be so beautiful, and I'm still like, nah, doesn't seem like it works for me. That's how fucking bad this film is. It can't convince me that they could be together and have beautiful children. What a terrible fucking movie. What is this? I felt like I was watching one of those dead-ass plays. One of those dead-ass plays you can't quite hear whatever bullshit they're spouting, and I'd wished I'd gone to see a fucking movie. Well, I did go see a fucking movie, and unfortunately, it was this one. I had a steak with George from Pulp Kitchen beforehand, and I was enjoying. I had a bit of wind, right? Every time I eat steak, I get some wind, and I was farting a lot through this film. And my farts and the rhythm of my farts and the different viscosity of those farts was more interesting. And trying to kind of hold those farts in and let them out at opportune moments and drip feed them out so that I wasn't disturbing people around me with a smell I can't hold them in because I'll fucking explode like the pufferfish from Finding Nemo because I got IBS. That whole process was more interesting than this fucking big, bold pile of fucking turd. I like movies like this. I like soppy movies. One of my favorite 3 films of all time are Sunrise, Sunset, and Midnight. Lost in Translation. Like, I want to see couples just wandering around talking about nothing. A big blooming ball of cock. 1.5 stars out of 5 on Letterboxd. Go check out my pithy review. And for this film, I will not do a full review. I don't know. I'll go have a look. I might not do a full review. I might do a full review, or I might just do one of those fucking lines that's supposed to get me loads of fucking likes, but it'll have like 3. Just because I don't think this fucking movie even deserves a proper write-up. Right. Next week, One Battle After Another premiere. The new Paul Thomas Anderson movie, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. I can't fucking wait. I will have a review for it before release, which is on Friday the 26th of September. So next week we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of PTA movies. We're going to be ranking PTA movies, which as I speak, I have a poll up on my Instagram channel for, like, pick your favorite PTA movie. By the time you listen to this, it might be too late to go vote, but go check. It's on my YouTube, on my fucking channel on Instagram. And then we're also going to review One Battle After Another and where it fits in the ranking of PTA movies provisionally. Thank you for joining me for Asquith on Film. My throat fucking kills. I vowed to you I would never go over an hour with an episode of these, and I got close to it this time, but the promise has been kept, thankfully. Fred Asquith on Film, TikTok, Instagram. I will see you next week for One Battle After Another. Can't fucking wait. Thanks for joining me for the first 25 episodes of Fred on Film. You are one of the original listeners, and I hope you stick around for many, many, many more. I'm so happy I started this, and I can't wait to continue. Thank you. See you next time.